All right, let's go ahead and get talking about our database connection, or our objective to get a database connection working. And this is 8-2 from your book. And one thing before we get into some of this code here, let's go ahead and go through a quick run through the PowerPoints, and then we'll get into porting this code and making it work. But before PowerPoint stuff, let's talk a little bit about security, because this is where the rubber meets the road. You already know that you're not supposed to be doing stuff like you did in Chapter 5, and that everything should be that for any kind of information that is being stored on the computer, everything should be in a database. Now, the only thing that's not going to be in the database is your username and password for the database itself. And you can see here on line 11, that's the first thing it's asking. And that's one thing that we're going to describe with security here. And where is it that you should actually store that information so that you can appropriately have it available to you when you use it, because this is absolutely a nightmare. Line 11 is horrible. Other than host and user, line 11 would be really horrible if we did this. Okay, because that is actually the root and password that we use is going to be like that for our database. Root and password is root, and then nothing for password. So you actually want to assign these variables outside of where your Apache user has access to it. And we've talked about the Apache user and the Apache user running before. We'll talk more into that here as we continue. But first, what I want you to kind of get an idea of is when you think about security, and you want to get that, and I only want to say this just for that security aspect, is you want to get that bad scripting word out of your thinking when you're thinking about security and PHP or any scripting engine, is because it's not a script, it's an executable. Because PHP is actually written in C, and that's how I first started doing website server-sided programming, was with C. And so PHP started because a guy essentially wanted to create, functions, some back-end functions that were streamlined so that he could increase the speed of his website. So yeah, you could build PHP on your own. I could build PHP. Anybody could build PHP. All it is a C program that reads a stupid text file and does what it says. But here's the key: its standard input and output is redirected to the browser, which is handled through your Apache configuration. So it's an executable. It's a program, and that's because at that C level and the Zend engine, it is C code. And when you do a print in PHP, all that's doing is calling the print function in C++, or printf function in C. That's all it's doing. It's reading a text file, and there's back-end functions that run that do the tasks that the language has available to it for all its little steps. So that's your first thing. It's an executable. Now here's where you get into the real kind of the bitter parts of it, is that executable that you have running can act like a user on your system. You learned that in Chapter 5. You can give it that executable can run under the Apache user, which it's stuck under. But this is where that whole www folder is essentially open to the world, is the way you want to kind of think of it. First off, you have an executable that is capable of acting like you on the machine behind the keyboard. Chapter 5. And Yeah, so you got to have control of that Apache user, number one. Where does it have the appropriate, what directories does it have access to? And so the Apache user has access just to the www directory. So you want to think about that Apache user as, that's an Apache user that is running. So our Apache user is running our executable, our essentially our script that is being interpreted by a C program, an executable. It's an executable. Here's the thing: is that C program is built to work really well, and that's why we don't do it with C anymore. Because C, well, yeah, we do it with C still, but we have an intermediary. We have a highly functional library that the Zend is that's built in C, and so you got to kind of know that executable, that interpreter is running under that Apache user, and that Apache user only has access to your www drive. So that means that everything in www drive, no security, none whatsoever. Don't even think about it. It's going to even happen. In fact, you want to think of that. That's not even true. www is open to the world. Just think of it that way. So you never want to store your password and username in your www directory. So what they do is they will, what I've done and what most other individuals do is when they're storing their username and password for their database, and their program needs to read it and go get that information to hook up to the database, what we'll do is we will put it on a folder. So we have our WOMP60, we have our C drive here, and then I have my WOMP64 folder. There's the open www folder. What I'll do here is I'll create a new folder, and I'll call it config. And then inside of there, I'll put text files, or a text file, or a config file, or any kind of piece of data, or even a PHP file that contains the variables. And that's where my program is going to go to open up the username and password. It's not going to be stored. Excuse me. Okay, so you can imagine that was my faithful friend Alexa, and I finally renamed her to instead of computer to Ziggy, because every time I was doing a stupid video, of course I'm going to be seeing the word computer. There she is again. Okay, I'm stopping. Let's get going on with this video. Ziggy, shut up. Oh, God. Okay. So let's get back on track to what I was talking about with security. You're going to put that text file that contains your root and password in outside of your www folder that is open to the world, essentially through your web server. And that is going to be used to connect to your database. So when you run this MySQL connect function, you're going to be having a variable called, a variable that you use. For here, they're not passing a variable. You're going to actually have a variable that you assign to these later. Here, we're just literally hard coding it. And that's fine, because that's not... The goal of this class is for you to get it to work. Seriously. That's the goal of this class. So, I mean, I've said it often, but you know what? When you get into your 400 quarters, you're going to be able to use everything that you've learned in this class for a pretty whack awesome project. We can now test this, but here's the problem with database libraries, and that is they are continually being upgraded. So from the time of this book, these functions actually became deprecated in the C library of PHP. And that is because when you are connecting to databases, you have to update how it's done often. And so we're going to have to actually port these functions to the new functions that are available to us. And the book doesn't discuss those because the book is a little bit older. Actually, I think probably a new one's coming out pretty soon here, but we'll see. But Okay, what's our next step for today? What we're doing right now is, we just need to PowerPoint. Let's go through, let's whiz bang through some of this PowerPoint and talk about some of these functions. I'm not going to spend a dearthly amount of time, but I do want to show you how I'd go about porting these issues, because we got some errors already getting this code to work. And once I get this code to work, I think you'll be in a pretty good spot to kind of take off on your own. There's functions that are made to use for the ODBC library. Most everything is done through ODBC anyways. These functions that we have is the ones that we're going to have to port over is the MySQL improved package. So that's one that we're going to actually work with. Now, here the problem is when you're porting between one example or one version of the function to another, sometimes they get stupid and they switch the arguments, what argument comes first and what argument comes second. So you have to get into the documentation and kind of get that. But these functions are all built for you to work and just use. We have the ability to connect to the database, we send that connect. The way that we connect to the database is with that connect function, and then we send the arguments of the host, user, and password. Now, the host for us is going to be localhost. We're going to use localhost here because we're running WAMP on our own machine. And let's just see if we. So here it is. Here's an example of localhost right there for the connection, and that's the first thing that we want to do. And then once we start getting into some of these functions, you're going to find that these functions are called differently with the MySQLi improved library. And in fact, you won't even be allowed to use these old functions. I believe your PHP will yell at you and tell you to use the newer ones because it's deprecated. That's their fancy word for saying we had somebody break our function, so now we're upset and we're going to say it's deprecated and make a new one. This is a funny term, deprecated, whatever. Okay, so we open the database connection, but that's not enough because the database connection is just the server, it's just the database server itself. Then we have to open up the specific table, select the table, and then we can start working with it. So there's a lot of functions in here that you're going to want to get into when you're doing your 8-3 homework, which will be a little bit, which will be on the difficult side, but this is the whole reason why we're here. So, I mean, if it's the one chapter you spend the most time on, it's the one chapter that you want to spend the most time on. We're going to go ahead and create a table. Actually, you know what? I'm cheating a little bit because 8.2 is actually already done. I got it done. We just need to get it ready. So remember, for security, this is the main thing you need to know about security. First off, you are working with an executable, not a script. Know that in your mind and understand that this is just a C backend program running. And it literally is something that you could make yourself PHP if you wanted to. Now, that's first on security-wise. Understand that a program is running. Second, on security-wise, that program is running under the Apache user rights and privileges on the operating system. So that means that if Apache user needs any special resources, you need to give them rights and privileges over that file that it needs, or external link or whatnot. And if you want to keep something secure from the Apache user, even though you have to use the Apache user to open up the file that contains your username and password. Actually, you probably wouldn't use you would use a PHP script probably to store it in a variable. You store that information not in the www directory go somewhere else that's not accessible to the whole World Wide Web. That's where you put your username and password. And then your Apache user you can use your chapter 5 stuff to open that up. I wouldn't. I would actually keep it in a config.php file. I would put that in config.php file, and then I would write in that config.php file that would be in that directory. I would just do this: username equals root, and then that config.php file that would be in the directory other than www. I would have something like this: password. I probably wouldn't even call it I wouldn't use username or password. I would probably mangle these names, just because I'm stupid like that. But you probably don't need to. And then your password is just nothing. That's what we're dealing with. Now our host is going to be localhost. We can just hard code that. Let's go ahead and right here, let's get into the username variable that you would set in your config.php file. And we're cheating here. And then password. So what you could do is include that file, import it from that other directory, and then that would give you access to these variables that you declare in your config.php file. Effortless e-commerce is a good book that shows you how to do that. I have it somewhere, but it shows you all those little peculiar niceties that you need when you're actually building a something like a shopping cart. Pretty important. Okay, so let's get this working, and then we can call it. Now remember, you're gonna have to port this stuff, so you're gonna have to be looking at these functions that you're gonna be using. MySQL query, and then you're going to want to look at how MySQL query and if there's a MySQLi query. So there should be a MySQLi query because it's the improved library. MySQLi. What was it that we were looking at? MySQLi. What was the silly one again? I just can't really get my mind on it. MySQLi query. Okay. MySQLi query. Go ahead and Google that. Okay, so there's actually a website that you'll use the most for when you're doing your porting. So one thing that you would want is to bring up this php.net site. I think this is the one I usually use. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. So this is the one that I used to learn how to port everything. So as we see that we have MySQLi query here, and then we have the arguments. So you want to make sure that when you're porting and you're changing one function to the improved MySQL library, that the parameters are the same, because they could have this parameter coming second or the third parameter coming first. I've seen that change in a lot of the updated functions for the SQL database. So this is going to be a common thing that you're always going to have to do. You're always going to have to update your code to the newer non-deprecated stuff. And then also you're going to have to update other people's code to the more secure parts of whatever libraries or resources you're using. So this is how I would actually go back by, and I would find, what actual arguments does this match up with what I'm learning from in the book and what I'm using from the book, because they're not, the functions are the same. The functions perform the same thing. You got to use them a little differently on the arguments you send them. And then of course you got that little I in there. So we're gonna have some errors where we're gonna do some porting here, and the error that we're gonna have is going to be probably this MySQL Connect will probably be the first one. Let's see what happens. Okay, line 10 it doesn't like. Line 10, oh, duh, I'm writing C code again, aren't I? Oh, no, I'm writing PHP code. I was doing Python. Okay, that sucks. I hate it. But hey, once you learn C, you know them all, so it doesn't really matter. You just learn one. C or C++, you learn, or Java or C# are awesome. Nah, Java and C# aren't. C and C++, you learn those languages, you know every language. It doesn't matter. Okay, so now that I'm done writing Python, okay, so let's tie that up, and we're gonna do some more porting here because it looks like we probably got an error, most likely. Line 10 still. That means I'm gonna do a save all, and you know I'm taking your time up for this because this is what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to do this. Oh, I'm writing PHP. I'm still writing Python. Oh my God. Okay. Let's get beyond this silliness. Okay. All right. MySQL Connect. DB Connect. Let's see if what we got is working. Fine. Okay, we're beyond my silly stuff, and then we got our first one, MySQL Connect on line 13. Now that one, undefined function. So what that means is that this one has been updated to the new improved, and you should no longer be using it. So we need to do the MySQL Connect versus MySQLi Connect. And we need to make sure that the arguments are the same. Localhost, then username, and password. So let's go ahead and look that one up. And I'm going to use PHP.net. Do they have a search? Yeah. Okay, MySQLi underscore connect. There it is. Cool. Okay, let's see if it's got the same parameters. Does it have server name, username, and password? Oh, it looks like we just use MySQLi. Okay, let's port that. All right. And, you know, we'll probably steal some of this other stuff. It looks like that's object-oriented. Cool. Oh, that's not the function. Yeah, I don't want that. MySQLi, and let's do connect, and let's see if we come up with something a little bit better. Probably the same place. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just see if it works. I don't think, because that's object, and we're not doing object-oriented. We haven't even learned about object-oriented in PHP yet. So let's use the function. I think I could just do this. MySQLi. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that stupid pop-up will come up. I can look at the arguments through here. I can just do MySQLi, and then go to connect. Okay, so it looks like connect has string, username, password. Okay. So we're good. Okay, that one's ported. Not too difficult, is it? Believe it or not, some students found this exceptionally difficult. And so that's one. So it's not too bad. Okay, it looks like we got MySQLi error. I bet you we're going to be able to do this. We're going to be able to throw an I in there and get that to update. MySQLi. Let's look for underscore error. Underscore error. Okay. Okay, that just looks like it's doing an error. So we'll just use MySQLi there instead. Because it looks like it just does a window that says something's wrong. Okay, here's one that we're going to have to deal with. MySQLi create DB. We're going to have to look at that one. Here's MySQL create DB. MySQLi create DB. Oh, it might not be deprecated. Okay. Let's look at that. Oh, there we go. Let's run it one more time. Just make sure that we're good. It's line 13. It doesn't like. Oh, that's because I put the I in there, and we're going to test it without porting. Okay. Now let's try this. Okay. Let's look at our output again. Looks like we got lots of stupid NetBeans windows popping up here. Gonna have to clean those up. And then let's look at our output because we're getting closer. Okay, line 3, MySQL connect, undefined function. Okay, so where is the MySQLi connect? MySQLi underscore connect. Okay. I'm not going to go and do the database stuff, guys. I want the MySQLi connect. All right. Looks like I'm going to have to let's look at it on W3 Schools. They might have a better. Okay, they went object oriented with it totally. Okay. Actually, that's what it's kind of funny because I actually did it myself. I built my own. I tend to like to do my own object-oriented stuff, so I literally took all the database code that PHP has and built my own objects with it. So I just roll with the objects and don't have to deal with this stupid stuff because I've got this stuff inside of objects. So let's go with this then, and it looks like that we're going to be using this example. So let's go ahead and just grab the whole thing and we'll port it. That is, if my mouse actually wants to work right. Okay, so that's going to go right here. And it looks like we'll see we don't need that. We can get rid of this. Okay. All right, I'm gonna have to. Looks like I'm mangling this pretty bad, but what we are trying to get doing is this MySQLi connect, and I think I put this in the wrong spot. I think it needs to go right here. Okay, and then we'll get rid of what we don't need. Okay, so let's just call this DB connect because that's pretty much what we. Oh wait, no, we can't. We can't do that. That's MySQLi, but it looks like we're using DB connect for that. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Control Z, DB connect. Okay, and then here's localhost username. Oh, and I got. Oh, you know what? I'm such an idiot. I bet you it's not because of this. I bet you it's because of this. Oh my god. Python strikes again today. Okay. Let's see if the MySQL connect function will work, and then we'll try to do it with MySQLi. Oh no, we already know the MySQL connect won't work. We're going to do the MySQLi connect. Okay, and then let's get rid of this new way, which is object-oriented, which is actually the way I would actually prefer, but it's not really talked about with your book. So, well, we do object-oriented next. I think it's the next chapter. We get into object-oriented. So let's see. Okay. Oh, finally, goody goody. We're beyond line 13. We're on line 27. Okay, what did this code do? Did it create a database? MySQL create DB, DB name, DB connect. Okay. So it was line 27. It was, okay, so we were supposed to create a DB, newsletter. That's what okay, so we're going to look at my PHP admin to see if newsletter is in there, and then we can like celebrate because we did it. So I think we need to look at MySQLi create DB now. Let's look at that one. MySQLi, is there a create DB? Okay, let's just do a search for it. MySQLi. Well, let's just try MySQLi create DB. See if that does it. Oh, and then we got to do MySQLi error. So, you know, when you do find one where you add the I and it doesn't work, it's most likely one that you need to switch the parameters. I think it's the query. I think it's the query that you got to switch parameters on. Arguments. You know, the first one goes second and the second one goes first. You know, just flip-flop the username and password from here to there to there. Okay, let's look at what we got. Line 27. MySQL create DB. I think I did MySQLi. It must not have run that MySQLi yet. No, let's look at that. There it goes. MySQLi create DB. Okay, so MySQLi create DB. Let's do a search for that. There's some different ones. Oh, here we go. Create database. Looks like they're using a normal query for that. And I think connection and the SQL statement, those right there, if you look at MySQL query, the parameters are probably flip-flopped. Let's look into more on that create DB function. Because I think we're going to just go ahead and cheat and use the example code that we found, because it looks like MySQLi create DB might be deprecated. But maybe one of you guys will find it. Let's just do a search for this. Let's see if we can't find the example of it. Because I'm trying to keep with your book as much as possible here. Yeah. It looks like they took it out. Yeah, they took it out. it looks like they're using a query now to do that, which is probably the better way of doing it. Oh, here we go. No, they still got it. String database name. Well, then let's search the parameters for that. Get some good examples here. Well, it looks like this is using the new way of doing things. There we go. Host user pass. MySQLi underscore connect. Oh God, let's see if it is the right one. And again, they update this stuff all the time, guys. So I mean, you could, master PHP and come back 3 years later, and they've deprecated a whole another batch of functions. Okay, so it looks like that may be we got to do the MySQLi close. I'm gonna just think that that's part of the same. Okay, so this is the new way, object-oriented. We get our connection where we send it the localhost username password. We detect whether we connected or not. If we connected, that means that we're allowed access. Then let's create a database. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's what that MySQL Connect does. If that returns true, then it worked, which means that it was added to the database. If it returns false, then we got an error. Okay, so we just got to see if this actually worked. And I believe line 27 was my main error last time. So I just hit play again. Let's bring it up and see. MySQLi Connect expects parameter 2 to be a string. So as I was saying, you have to change the parameters. So what did I change? Okay. So that's where this is a parameter change one. DB name and then DB connect. Can't you believe how stupid they are when they do this stuff? Why would you do that? That's just, I mean, So anyways, a lot of what you're going to be doing is you're going to be learning from the book, and the book, shows you exactly what functions and arguments you need to use. And the only difference is, the functions are named differently with maybe a possible mismanagement in the way the arguments are given. I'm going to be very happy because they just finally came out with a new JavaScript book. These same authors, and I've been waiting for years for that one. So this one probably should come out because once you find a good book, good book is worth gold. Parameter 1 to be a string. Okay. Oh, duh. I am just going crazy today. It's one of my it's one of my days. Okay, guys. Let's go with the new way of doing it, and the heck with it, because it's driving me nuts right now. I'm going in circles. Is there even a MySQLi create DB anymore? No, there isn't. So we're going to do it this way. Okay. All right, let's try that. See if we can't get our database connected or working. Yeah, because look at what I did. I just did another connect. I was just like ridiculous. You're probably wondering what the heck you're sitting here watching me for still. Well, that's because we're going to get success eventually. Okay, so if we're connected, then go ahead and create the database. We're going to call it my_db. Let's just change that to we'll add the variable here, db name. Okay, so we create the database created, error created database, then we close the database. Okay. All right. Here's our SQL query to create our database file. That's going to be called newsletter. Up here, our DB name newsletter. We connect. And if we've connected properly with our login, we create a query that creates a database with the database name, newsletter. Is there an extra space here? No? Okay. And then we run the query. And this is where we're going to have to do MySQLi query and look at it real quick and see if there's a change. So string link goes first, then query. So look at this one. This argument is, the old one is you send it the link, then the query. But this one, you send it the query and then the link. Oh, God. Okay, so this one needs to be changed to connection. And this one needs to be changed to our SQL statement, which is our SQL line that actually does our create the database, which is this guy right here. And that's our command. So our link and the command. Okay. And I think I need to make that MySQLi. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if all my fumbling around this morning got us anywhere. Doesn't look like it. Connection in C on line 30. Undefined variable connection in C on line 30. MySQLi query expects one parameter to MySQL no given. Okay, so it looks like we've got a few issues here. Let's go look at the first one. It's line 30 that it does not like. And that is the MySQL query, which I'm going to look at. And the MySQLi query on line 30, I think, is the main one that's causing this problem. Yeah. MySQLi query. Let's look at that one. And then let's just go to, Google and okay, so MySQLi query, we need to send it. Really? Is it really being stupid? Or no, it's just me. Is it just me? Oh my God. MySQLi string query. Let's go look at the example. Here we go. Link, then the query. That's what I'm doing. Connection, then the query. Oh, that's because I copied and pasted. The connection is wrong. It's DB connect, isn't it? Because we're using DB connect here. Okay. Let's go there. Okay, well, maybe I'll dance a jig if this works. I would like it to work. Let's see. Getting closer. Line 30 is fixed. Line 33. Okay, MySQLi expects exactly one parameter, so I got to probably send it. MySQL error is probably now changed to be expecting a problem. That actually might work, except for this. Yeah. All right, I think MySQLi close. Yeah, probably. Let's look and see if they have it. There it is, right there. Okay. I think we've got everything ported, and I've gone through and checked it all out. It might be jig dancing time. No. Still don't like my MySQLi error. Well, let's go ahead and get some ideas of how to use that. Probably using it wrong. Well, still not really finding any. This is back to the object-oriented, which is kind of where you want to go now and start doing. In fact, the next book I choose for this course will probably I will choose one that's more object-oriented when it comes to databases. Okay. Oh. We got to pass it the link of where it's reporting to, which is DB Connect. Is that what it is? Is that what that example was? Yeah, it's expecting your database link. And that will output our error that we had from our query. And that's how that works. Okay. So, I need to put the link in here. Okay. So it knows what connection to check for a recent query error. Or whatnot. Let's just do this. I hope with it. Okay. Because I'm getting impatient now because this should have been working along. Well, you're going to have to be porting too. So you're probably going to have it a little bit more difficult than my simple example. But it's a good exercise because this is what you always have to. Oh. A database exists. Oops. So that's why you have to pass the link, is because that's where you get that error. So you have to pass on 39 that DB Connect link so it knows what error to look to tell you. right here of what happened. So obviously, one of my when I ran this, obviously it worked one way, and I didn't realize it, because if you look at, if I go in, because the error was it's already created, which means it worked at some point. So we go into PHP-MyAdmin, and we'll go ahead and do our root no password sign in, and we go in here, and you see our newsletter is right there. So let's go ahead and let's choose that one. Let's try to delete it. In fact, is there a way that I can choose a table? Is there a tables? Is there a tables thing where I can just choose? I might have to send in the command to remove the database, because you should be able to. I was hoping that I could remove this. Is that? Okay, so this is the database newsletter. And you, okay, drop the database. Okay. There it is, gone. Cool. All right, let's run our code. Woohoo! Created successfully. Okay, let's look at PHP-MyAdmin. Where's the stupid? I just had the stupid thing up. Okay. Did I get stupid and shut that down? Well, let's shut this down, because obviously I'm getting confused on how many windows I got going up on here. Okay, so the last thing we got to make sure of is there we go. Okay, so let's refresh this and see if there it is, newsletter. Cool. All right, guys, you got an idea of what you're going to have to deal with now when you're working with your database coding. You're going to always, it does not matter. You're always going to have to do this porting problem. You're always going to have updates like this that you're going to have to do when you're dealing with database connectivity. So it's actually a good exercise for you to do this porting from the older code to the newer code. You also see that out in the workforce quite often. So make sure you use that website that I showed you, the one that's the purple, php.net. That one's really good at showing you the arguments of the functions and when you're porting them and converting them over from what your book shows you to the newer functions that you should be using, the MySQL improved library. Alrighty, remember, security-wise, this is an executable, not a script. Well, it's also a script. Put your username, password outside of your www directory in a variable. Some kind of config.php file that you import into your program from a directory that's outside of your Apache user's purview. So you're not, just be so stupid to put your username and password in the www directory. Seriously, they almost have full control of it. That's the open to public directory. That's it. A little bit longer because of the errors, but I wanted to give it to you like this because this is how you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to port and update, and you're going to have to get used to it because you'll be doing it for the rest of your life. I know I do. I'm used to it. Do it all the time. All right. Take care, guys. Finish up your 8.3. If you want to skip right ahead to 8.3 and not do 8.1 and 8.2, go for it. And you can just tell me that you watched the video when you submit your assignment and you have just 8.3 there. Okay? All right. Take care. Bye.